Welcome back to the deep dive. I have to start today with a very specific high energy heads up for you.
Yeah, please do.
If you want us to keep bringing these breakdowns, to keep cracking open the books that, the mainstream would rather you ignore, you need to hit that like button and subscribe to the feed right now.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It really is the fuel that keeps this whole engine running.
It is. And trust me, you are going to want to be notified for what we have coming down the pipe.
Oh, absolutely.
But buckle up for today, because we aren't just reading a book today. We're stepping into a war zone.
That's a great way to put it.
We're breaking down this controversial new ebook. It's called Touching Grass: Life Before Social Media Ubiquity by Conrad Riker. Just came out this year, 2025.
And honestly, calling this a book almost feels like a massive understatement.
Totally.
Riker explicitly frames this text as war literature. He is not interested in helping you organize your calendar or practice mindfulness to be a better worker drone.
No, not at all.
He calls this text a declaration of independence for men who feel like the 21st century has pulled a giant bait and switch on them.
It's aggressive. It's highly controversial.
Yeah.
And it is specifically targeting a reader who feels betrayed.
Yes.
He's speaking directly to the men's rights sphere, the red pill community, really any guy who looks at the state of modern masculinity, the loneliness, the lack of purpose, and thinks to himself, we have been engineered to fail.
And the villain in Riker's story, it isn't just screens or smartphones. It's much more systemic than that.
Right.
He argues that the entire institutional framework, schools, HR departments, the dating market, all of it has been radically transformed.
And we should note his very specific language here.
Yes, he says these institutions have been, quote, captured by feminists and Marxists, unquote, and that the goal was to dismantle male competence and replace it with compliance.
Which is a massive, heavy claim.
It's huge.
And I want to make it super clear right up front to you listening, we are just the messengers here. We are impartially reporting on the content provided in this book.
Exactly. We're not taking sides or endorsing the viewpoints. We're just trying to convey the ideas exactly as they are laid out in the original source material.
We're taking a deep dive into the arguments. And look, we are going to give you the core intel today, the red pill, if you will. But if you want the full manual on reclaiming your mind, the actual tactical guide, you need to go to Amazon Kindle or Google Playbooks right now and buy the ebook Touching Grass.
Because we just cannot cover every single citation here. The book is incredibly dense.
It really is. So let's start with the foundation of his argument. He calls our current reality a digital dystopia.
But he doesn't actually start with the technology itself, which is interesting.
No, he starts with an emotion. He says you, the reader, are angry because you feel you were born too late.
That born too late sentiment really anchors the first chapter. He describes this pervasive sense of grief among men.
Yeah, that really hit home.
He argues that the modern man is grieving the loss of an era where truth wasn't optional and where trust wasn't extinct. He calls today's world a landscape of cognitive colonization.
Cognitive colonization. That is the key phrase.
It really is. Riker argues that you are expected to smile while your agency is essentially outsourced to an algorithm.
Right. You don't choose what you see, it's fed to you.
You don't choose who you date. The algorithm serves them up. And he argues this has physically changed our brains.
And he brings the receipts to back that up, too. He cites that famous Microsoft attention span study.
Oh, right. The longitudinal study tracking attention spans from the year 2000 to 2023.
The drop is insane.
It is. In 2000, the average human attention span was 12 seconds. By 2023, it dropped to 8 seconds.
And Riker points out, with quite a bit of venom, I might add, that this is 1 second less than the attention span of a goldfish.
A goldfish.
8 seconds.
We are literally losing the biological capacity to focus on a single thought.
But Riker argues this isn't just a natural drift. He says it's a deliberate hijacking.
Yeah, and he tells the story from 1977 that really stuck with me. A boy is sitting on a porch in rural Ohio.
For 45 minutes. 45 minutes. Doing nothing.
Just staring at the sky and mentally writing a story.
No phone.
No notifications. No podcast in his ear. Ironic, I know. Just silence.
And Riker's argument here is that silence used to be a battery charger. It was a position of power.
Yes. It was where you processed reality and decided what you thought before the whole world told you what to think.
But now silence is panic. If you put a modern guy in a room with nothing but his thoughts for 45 minutes, he literally climbs the walls.
Riker says we've been rewired to be reactive, We can't initiate, we can only respond to a ping.
And he draws a straight line from this loss of silence to the absolute collapse of male friendship.
Which brings us to the Minnesota Ice Fishing Club example. This anecdote does a ton of heavy lifting in the book.
Yeah, 1987. 14 guys. Walk us through this one.
It's basically a case study in obligation. For 15 years, every single Saturday, these 14 men showed up to a frozen lake to fish.
Every Saturday.
Every Saturday. And there was no group chat to coordinate. There were no, running 10 minutes late texts.
No flaking because you just didn't feel like it.
Exactly. Riker makes the point that if you didn't show up, people didn't just scroll past your name. They drove to your physical house to see if you were dead.
That level of commitment feels almost alien now.
It does. Riker calls modern friendship performative. You might have 2,000 followers online, but if your car breaks down at 3 a.m., who do you actually call?
Nobody.
Right. He says technology has given us connectivity but completely stripped us of community. You're lonely despite having thousands of notifications.
And Riker doesn't think this happened by accident, does he?
Not at all. He traces the root of this passivity straight back to the education system. And honestly, this is probably the most scorched earth section of the entire book.
Yeah, he refers to modern schools as Marxist indoctrination camps. Or sometimes just simply glorified daycares designed to crush male energy.
He's contrasting this with the concept of the school as a forge in the 1970s.
A forge.
Right. In his view, the school of the 70s was about authority. It was about the trivium logic, grammar, rhetoric.
It wasn't about exploring your feelings.
No, it was about learning the mechanics of thinking. He describes teachers carrying wooden rulers, not necessarily to use them, but as actual scepters of authority. The classroom was a place of order.
The comparison that really drives this home, and I actually laughed out loud at this, though I think Riker means it to be completely tragic, is the physics class.
Oh, the F equals MA story.
Yes. He describes a class in 1993. They're deriving F equals ma force equals mass times acceleration. It's chalk, it's math, it's objective logic. If you can't do the math, the bridge falls down. You fail.
And then you contrast that with the modern class he describes, where a teacher asks students to draw how gravity makes them feel.
Right. And one student draws a sad cloud because gravity feels heavy.
And gets a gold star for participation.
It's wild. But Riker isn't just making fun of this to be mean. He sees this as the actual death of competence.
He argues that when you stop teaching mastery over nature, which requires objective truth, like physics, and start teaching students to project their subjective insecurities onto nature, you create adults who simply cannot function.
You create men who think their feelings can somehow alter reality.
And this lack of mastery just bleeds right out of the classroom into the physical world. This is where he talks about the death of the unsupervised boy.
The statistics he pulls here are staggering.
In 1994, 80% of British 8-year-olds were allowed to roam their neighborhoods freely. They could go to the shops, the park, a friend's house.
Just totally unsupervised.
Yes. But by 2010, that number had plummeted to 15%.
That is a total collapse of autonomy. In basically one generation, we went from be home by dinner to I need to track your GPS location every second of the day.
Riker attributes this to safetyism, which he argues is just a tool of control and a symptom of what he calls the feminization of culture.
His theory is that by removing risk, we remove the teacher, because pain is a teacher.
Exactly. If a boy never falls out of a tree, he never learns his own limits. He never learns that he can get hurt and actually survive.
He tells that brutal story from 1978 about the boy and the horse.
Oh, yeah. The kid falls off, breaks his collarbone.
And the reaction wasn't to call an ambulance or get trauma counseling. His dad wrapped the shoulder in a leather strap and told him to get back on the horse by sunset.
To a modern ear, that sounds borderline abusive. I mean, the kid has a broken bone.
It does.
But Riker knows that's how it sounds to us. He challenges the reader to look at the result. The boy did it. And by doing it, he learned he wasn't made of glass.
Riker contrasts that with today's trauma industry, where every single scraped knee is pathologized.
He argues we aren't raising safer children. We're raising fragile adults who crumble at the first sign of resistance simply because they've never had to endure anything physically painful.
And this fragility, according to Riker, is absolutely destroying the dating market.
Yeah, if you thought his take on schools was heavy, his chapter on gender dynamics is nuclear.
He essentially argues that dating has moved from a game of honor to a game of market manipulation.
He leans heavily on the concept of hypergamy here. The evolutionary theory that women naturally seek partners of equal or higher status.
Right.
Riker's argument is that social media has industrialized this instinct. It's not just biology anymore, it's an algorithm.
This is what he calls the digital harem.
Correct. In the past, a woman's dating pool was the men in her town or her social circle. Now, because of apps like Tinder and Instagram, an average guy is competing against a global roster of millionaires, models, and influencers.
Riker claims this creates a massive delusion of choice that totally devalues the local average man.
You aren't competing with the guy next door anymore. You're competing with a highly curated image of a guy on a yacht in Dubai.
He uses the term content farms to describe how some women operate in this space. He tells the story of Jessica.
Right, the woman who deleted her Instagram.
Yeah, because she realized she had spent 11 years just performing for strangers.
And then there's Rick. His girlfriend was staging fake arguments just to get engagement on her TikTok. She literally told him it's just content.
It's just content. Riker sees this as the complete commodification of intimacy. When you have trends like girl dinner or the massive prevalence of OnlyFans, he argues that femininity has become a subscription service.
He says you can't truly desire what is constantly being advertised to you. It kills the mystery.
It strips it all away. But then he flips the script and talks about what love actually used to be.
He defines it not as happiness or self-actualization, but as sacrifice.
The story of Frank and Diane, married in 1955.
They stayed together through poverty, through war, sickness. And when someone asked their son why they stayed together through all that, the son just said, "You don't walk out on your platoon."
That is such a masculine, almost military framing of a marriage.
It is. And Riker contrasts that duty-bound view with modern self-care culture, which basically tells you that if you aren't perfectly happy every single second, you're being toxic to yourself and you should leave.
Riker argues that endurance breeds deep joy, whereas the pursuit of constant happiness just leads to severe loneliness.
He's calling for men to view relationships as a duty to build something, not just a product to consume.
So we got a collapse in attention, education, and dating.
Yeah.
But Riker goes even deeper. He says there is a broader crisis of competence.
Yes.
He argues men have shifted from being builders to being consumers.
This is central to his entire definition of masculinity. He believes men are hardwired to manipulate the physical world, to build, to fix, to forge.
He compares a kid in 1987 welding a go-kart from scrap metal to a modern teenager who can't even change a tire because he's never had to interact with the physical world in that way.
The story that really illustrated this for me was the canoe.
Yes, A Kid in Maine, 1978.
This story is the heart of the book for me. This kid spends 11 months building a cedar strip canoe. He has a library book and the wood. That is it.
No YouTube tutorial.
No Reddit thread to ask for help. And most importantly, no audience.
He didn't post a time-lapse video of the build. He didn't stream it on Twitch.
Exactly. He didn't do it for the likes. He did it to make the object. The solitude was the entire point.
Riker contrasts this with the modern maker movement, which he feels is often just performing the act of making for a camera.
If you build a table but don't post it on Instagram, did you really build it? Riker says yes, and that is the only true way to build it.
He talks about the repair versus replace mentality, too.
Yeah.
We used to fix toasters. Now we just throw them away and buy a new one.
Riker calls this infantilization. If you rely on the service economy for everything, if you can't fix your car, your sink, your home, you are a dependent. You are literally a child of the system.
And this leads to what he calls ontological collapse.
That's a heavy philosophical term.
Yeah, break that down for us. What does he mean by ontological collapse?
Well, ontology is the study of existence. Riker is arguing that if a man cannot point to something physical and say, "I made this with my own hands," he actually begins to doubt his own reality. He becomes a ghost in the machine. He consumes data, watches videos, plays games, but he leaves zero mark on the physical world. He is theoretically alive, but practically irrelevant.
That is a terrifying thought, being a ghost in your own life. So, if the world is a digital trap, the schools are indoctrination camps, and we are all suffering from ontological collapse, what is the way out?
Right.
Riker spends the final part of the book on reclaiming the mind. And spoiler alert, it's not about downloading a meditation app.
No, it is about nature, but
Yeah.
he's very specific here, not nature as a backdrop for a selfie.
Right.
He cites a study on the subgenual prefrontal cortex. That's the part of the brain associated with brooding and depression.
Okay.
The study showed that walking in a city keeps that area active. You're hyper alert to traffic, ads, other people. But walking in nature completely shuts it down. Riker calls nature the original medicine.
He advocates for the walkable, not woke city. He deeply misses the anonymity of the past.
He misses the freedom from surveillance. He talks about Jack Kerouac and Camus, men who walked and thought.
You cannot have deep subversive thoughts if you are constantly being tracked, monitored, and notified.
He wants men to rediscover the power of being untraceable. He says a man who cannot be found is a man who cannot be controlled.
There is also a very pointed chapter near the end called The West Was Great, Not Guilty. He really pushes back hard against the modern narrative of shame that dominates universities.
He rejects the decolonial framework entirely. He argues that shame paralyzes a civilization while pride builds it.
He uses the example of a student looking at the Sistine Chapel.
Modern education might teach that student to deconstruct the power dynamics and the funding of the church to find the oppression.
But Riker says no. Look at the art. Feel the pride of what human beings, specifically Western men in that context, can actually build.
He brings up Gutenberg and the printing press here too.
Yes. He points out that Johannes Gutenberg didn't ask for permission. He didn't hire a diversity consultant. He just lit the fuse of truth.
Riker sees this assertive, unapologetic drive as the real engine of Western success. He's calling for men to stop apologizing for their ambition and to start building again.
So how do we wrap this up? What is the marching order for the listener? Riker's solution is a pretty clear red pill.
It is. He says Touchgrass isn't just a meme, it's a manifesto. It is a direct call to action. Delete the apps, walk alone, build things with your hands. He's telling men to reject the lie of external validation.
He wants men to become dangerous to the system by becoming entirely self-reliant.
Precisely. If you don't need their validation and you don't need their services because you can fix your own stuff, you are free. You become ungovernable in the best possible sense of the word.
He closes the book with this line, "You weren't born too late. You were born just in time to fight for reality in a world of fakes."
It totally flips the script. It stops the reader from being a victim of the times and frames them as a resistance fighter. It's an incredibly empowering note to end on. It gives the listener a clear mission.
It really does. And frankly, we have only scratched the surface today. This book is dense, it's aggressive, and it's packed with history and data we just didn't have time to cover.
Yeah, there's so much more.
If you want the full war literature experience, and honestly, if this conversation fired you up, you owe it to yourself, you need to go buy Touching Grass on Amazon Kindle or Google Play Books. Get the manual.
And definitely check out the author's Substack. He's at Conrad Ann Riker. That is where he posts all the uncensored commentary that keeps this whole conversation going.
Do that right now. And before you disconnect and go find some silence, remember to like and subscribe to this deep dive. We're here to bring you the insights you won't find anywhere else, and we really need your support to keep doing it.
The final thought I'd leave you with is something Riker implies throughout the entire book. If the digital world is an illusion, then the only things that are real are the things you can actually touch.
That's right.
So when you turn this audio off, what are you going to touch? The screen or the grass? What if the ultimate rebellion today is simply being unfindable?
Deep stuff. Thanks for listening. We'll see you on the next deep dive.